What's up again, Buckeye Nation? Florida Cory here, Scarlet N Great, Scarlet N Great Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, whichever one you like. The audio version of this podcast is coming back very soon. Also, as always, we would like to have you subscribe to this channel if you can. If you like what you see, 1,000 subscribers we're pushing for a possible giveaway, Scarlet N Great Podcast gear. Also, guys, like the video if you can. We really appreciate it. It helps out the channel. All this helps out the channel. We'll continue to give you the best possible free Buckeye content for the fans as humanly possible. Guys, this is part two of the Kevin Noon interview. You saw part one. If you haven't seen it, I implore you to go back and watch that video as well. Part one with Kevin Noon from BuckeyeGrove.com. As always, go check out his website. Gives you the best bang for your buck of insider information. And he does his absolute best and works incredibly hard to give you the best possible insider Buckeye just content you can possibly want. As always, is another shout out to Chat Sports. Thank you again, guys, for all you do for us at this channel. We'll continue to work hard for all of you and all those who love and support us. We really appreciate it, guys. We love and support you as well. And as I said before, this is part two of the Kevin Noon interview. Part two, Deuce, part two. So, all right, the OSU Vids. I don't know his name, but he goes by OSU Vids. Asked a bunch of questions. God bless him. I'm going to go one at a time. I'm not going to rapid fire you 9 questions here. Out of the freshmen coming in June, who do you think might be a sleeper of sorts, like a guy that nobody's really thinking about, but could end up having somewhat of an impact?
Well, you see, the thing is that is so subjective as I'm sitting here and filibustering to bring up the recruiting list in front of me because I did not have that in front of me to remember exactly who is a summer enrollee. But, I think it's all everybody is, talking about a guy like Ja'Kalen Johnson, the defensive back out of St. Louis. I mean, there's certainly going to be guys that we're going to be talking about. I think a lot of people are very excited about Donovan Jackson, the offensive lineman out of Houston. As I kind of go through here and I look at some guys, I don't know. I mean, can you be a sleeper? Can you be a surprise as a 4-star defensive back like Denzel Burke out of Scottsdale, Arizona?
I think he kind of is. So not a lot of people talked about him, but he's been here all spring and playing well, I guess. So,
I mean, can you sit there and can you be a member of the Rivals 250 or the Rivals 100? And can somebody like Michael Hall not necessarily be on the radar? I mean, if your interior line, either on offense or defense, it's not as sexy of a position as tackle is. Everybody wants to talk about that left tackle or that rush in. Who's the next Bosa Young or whatever? Who's going to be the next Orlando Pace? But I think that Michael Hall is somebody that could certainly fit that bill. I think if we look at the class from top to bottom, it's a great class, and the fact that it didn't end up number one, I think, is just a testament to what Alabama's able to do in terms of its recruiting. But everybody who was worried about the transition of power from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day has not missed a beat, and it poses the question: is Ryan Day a better recruiter than Urban Meyer? I think we don't have enough cycles in the book. Obviously, Urban has his years at Florida as well. I mean, maybe we don't worry so much about BG or Utah because those weren't national classes, but Ryan Day certainly has these guys coming in a nice way, and I think so. I'll take the easy way out, and I'll say I think it's probably going to be one of the guys coming out of the secondary, whether it's Jansen Dunn or Andre Turrentine or somebody like that.
Yeah, I forget about we've got like 6 guys out of the secondary, so I forget about all the guys we took the second. I mean, obviously Combs got to rebuild that room. I agree with you for what it's worth. Not that my opinion matters here, but I think a Hancock or Johnson will definitely be a guy who can contribute. I don't know if they'll be mainly in the rotation, but you could see them play a little bit as the season goes on. But is Arch Manning even a possibility? I know Arch Manning expressed some interest and all. People are, I think, reading into it a little bit too much, of vague interest in visiting Ohio State. Is it even a possibility? I'm really interested to hear what your answer is on that.
If I talk to anybody I know in the South, they say absolutely not. I will say that never say never, but doubtful. It's doubtful. He certainly has some strong ties to Ole Miss. I mean, he does have an uncle that played at Tennessee.
That guy.
I know. I mean, he is the mayor of Peytonville, so I don't know. So it's gonna be a long shot. Plus, too, at some point, something's gonna give, because you can't sit there and string the quarterbacks together that Ohio State is. And I understand what the constant churn you're going to have because of the portal and everything else, but if Quinn Ewers, the number one overall ranked recruit by Rivals.com for 2022, is 75% as good as they say he's going to be, and I've seen him in person, he's pretty darn special. If you're that number one quarterback in 23, are you going to follow him up? Granted, we've seen places like Clemson stockpile guys like that. We've seen Alabama to a certain extent, even though Alabama isn't the sexiest quarterback location. We certainly weren't singing the praises of Mac Jones going into the season coming off of Tua. But they're starting to put guys together. But I would take the SEC versus the field when it comes to Arch Manning.
I completely agree with you. I think he stands south. I mean, for whatever that's worth, when I heard, he wants to visit Ohio State, yeah, in this long string of schools he wants to visit. I mean, okay, great. He's probably going to visit. He probably just wants to visit everywhere. He wants to visit SMU, for crying out loud. He ain't going to end up at SMU. Stop.
No, but that's where Matthew Stafford went, and Clayton Kershaw. So you may as well go take a look there. I don't know. I mean, he's going to. Jameis Winston visited Ohio State. I mean, we could go through a lot of quarterbacks that have ended up elsewhere and been famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it. And the thing is that they go out and do a 2-week tour, and they sit there and they go visit 10 schools in 14 days or whatever. And sometimes if we don't even have a person at a camp or something, you don't even know if a kid's gone through unless you know the right question to ask. So.
How do you even process all that information? 10 schools in 14 days.
It's what I always say is people are like, well, how can these kids do this? Well, these kids also aren't, their families aren't going to have to pay for them to go to school or anything. So it certainly is, some of the finances can go into that. But if you're Arch Manning, can you imagine the name, image, likeness that he would be able to get in Oxford, Mississippi?
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, he would kill it. I mean, even more so than a power program like an Ohio State or a UGA or an Alabama. He could write his own ticket in Oxford, Mississippi with that name, image, likeness, because certainly by the time that he is on a college campus, it should be figured out. It may not be in its final form, but it should be figured out. So, yeah, I just think that he just needs to follow the family legacy and be a land shark, black bear, rebel, whatever they are this week down there at Ole Miss.
I would land shark. I wouldn't blame him at all if he stayed south. I get it, the family history down there. This one's you know what, Kevin, I'll do your best with this one. What with Jameson Williams' dad's hot takes going right now with his son transferring to Bama, which, by the way, I want to say that I'll speak for Kevin and everybody on this. We do wish Jameson the best at Alabama, obviously.
I have enough conflict in my life, breaking up fights between posters or this, that, or the other, that I don't actively run to conflict. So I didn't read a lot of Jameson's father's comments. So I don't have a great take on that. I think what it is, it's the natural ebb and flow, though. If a kid leaves instantly, there are people out there on social media who believe, well, this kid couldn't cut it. The kid sucks. Yeah. He didn't want to be a Buckeye, to hell with this kid, blah, 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 blah. And, and if you're seeing your flesh and blood, your son, your little boy out there getting crapped on like that, you're going to swing. And, but I think one of the ugly sides of social media as well is there's not some sort of loyalty test. You can't sit there and say, I'm a Buckeye fan here on Twitter now, and we've done like a background check on you to make sure. I guarantee you that there are plenty of trolls out there that are not Ohio State fans, pretending to be Ohio State fans. And if you look at their join dates, you see that they've been on Twitter for 4 seconds, haven't gotten rid of their egg icon or anything like that, coming out with scorching takes. So it's pretty ridiculous. But again, did I read specifically what Papa Williams said? No, because I didn't need more of that in my life. Best of luck to Jameson at Alabama. Go on, be successful. I have a feeling that Ohio State and Alabama might face each other in the postseason at least one more time coming up here soon, and see where the chips fall then.
I actually think it was a great spot for Jameson to end up. And no, I don't think it's because he couldn't cut. I actually think Bama's going to use him in a certain way, like a Jerry Jeudy type, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. That being said, I agree with what you're saying. It's Papa Williams, and I didn't like that he brought in this is just my opinion. I'm not speaking for Kevin here, obviously, but that he brought in other players' names in it. It's like, okay, that's a little bit far, but I do understand why he's defending his son for sure. So basically, 2 more questions from OSU Vids. How do you think our new punter and kicker are coming along? I had my own thoughts after the spring game that kind of worried. I was a little concerned, to be honest with you.
How many times are you? I mean, they're going to probably have to punt a couple of times. I don't care how successful an offense is. We sit there and we go, wow, they didn't punt in that game. That's the outlier. That's not the regular situation. So they're probably going to have to punt. How many field goals are they going to attempt over the season? I put the over-under on a 15-game season, and that's if they play every game possible. What, at 16 and a half or something like that? I don't think – Ryan Day hates field goals. I don't think Ohio State's going to be in a lot of games until potentially Big Ten championship game where field goals are going to be all that critical. So – what do we know? We don't know a whole lot at this point. We sat there and we saw them go through some simulated drill work at the spring game. Neither aspect was all that sharp, but people are like, well, they weren't even doing a rush on punting. Well, if you're not going through the way that it should work, there's probably no sense of urgency. And as for the place kicking, you have to give Jake Seibert a little bit of time to get it all put together. Is it something to keep an eye on? Absolutely, you got to keep an eye on it. But is it something that people should be losing any sleep over? No, not at this point. You know what? If they sit there and they go 1 of 4 on field goals at Minnesota week 1, or they have a 29-yard punting average, you can vilify me. You can come find me at Kevin_Noon on Twitter and yell at me and say, look, listen, stupid. But I really don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. They'll get there. You know
what, guys? If you do get angry at Kevin, subscribe to Buckeye Grove and yell at him there, because you'll really hurt him there. And so, that's what he really feels.
I'll cry all night. But be sure
to post videos on that website just crying.
For an annual, not a monthly. I'll cry harder if you sign up for an annual.
Exactly. It'd just be one of those fetal position cries. Anyway, going down to Jeff here. What is the position of need, in your opinion, in 2023 class?
For 23.
That's not too far out there, Jeff. Come on.
I was going to say, we don't even have 22 in the barn yet at this point. So you really kind of need to see what the 22 class looks like, what kind of transition you have, whether it be attrition through the portal or whatnot. I'm always going to be somebody who says that you can never have enough offensive linemen. You can never have enough rush-ins. I think that safety is a position that they're just not super deep at right now in terms of, but that could be addressed here in 22. So you just don't know. But every year you need to sit there and bring in multiple offensive linemen, because I think offensive line is the hardest position to project, because for one reason or another, you're dealing with guys, a lot of them you're having to kind of rebuild their bodies. You're having to take bad weight off of them, put better weight on them. Are they going to be able to move the same way? It's just such a physically demanding position in what they do. Not everybody, a lot of bodies break down along the way, so you just don't know. So, I'm going to take the easy way out and just say offensive line, but I think that my more advanced answer is going to be safety, just because of where the numbers are right now. And even if they do address it in 22, you just don't want to get to a point of where you have like a bubble in your recruiting to where everybody is within one class or two classes. And then if a class completely flames out, then you have nobody. Mm-hmm. So those are my two positions.
It's funny you say that. Just to add on to that, Johnny and I are always talking like there's two positions that seem to like we have gaps in our recruiting. Secondary, obviously being one of them, where we just kind of like missed a year, it seemed, and then offensive line is inconsistent at times, and in recruiting. And it's like you're right. If I'm with you, Kevin, 100%. Line of scrimmage for me every year. Load that position up. Defensive line, offensive line, just load it up. Because I mean, if you want to know how Bama's winning all the time, look at their offensive defensive lines. They're just ridiculous.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they've beaten Ohio State on some head-to-heads on kids or whatnot. That's not to say that Ohio State hasn't beaten Alabama out for kids as well, but I certainly hear more about the ones that don't go to Ohio State than the ones that do when it comes down to that. So you need to have, as Urban Meyer said directly, we're a line-driven team, an offensive line-driven team. Jim Tressel had his own version of that. I'm sure John Cooper, Earl Bruce, Woody Hayes. I mean, we can go back through the annals of Ohio State coaching history. While the game changes in so many ways and aspects, I don't think that the importance of winning the line of scrimmage is going away at any point.
I absolutely agree. You can make some very mediocre skill position players look like first rounders if your line gives you the time to do it. And if your defensive line dominates, you can make their first rounders look mediocre. So, I mean, it's just absolutely agree with you on that.